Okay, I got a question here that came in from our Direct Pediatric Care Summit. And I just wanted to talk through with it because it's a common question that comes up around boundaries in pediatric direct care. One of the things that I think makes it challenging when it comes to pediatric direct care, one is that a lot of the care that we provide is relatively easy and non burdensome. That 8 o'clock text message that comes in wondering about potty training or something like that, it probably doesn't take a lot for me to take a moment to answer it. Now, it would certainly break my boundary of not answering text messages after hours to do so, even though it would be relatively easy. Maybe it would just be a few quick sentences or thoughts, but it does pull me away from my family, pull me away from my recharging, my evening, whatever I might be doing. It does pull me away from that. There's lots of opportunities for boundaries to get tested and broken in pediatric direct primary care because a lot of the stuff that we do is relatively easy to provide a big win for the families. It's 9 o'clock and my child has this barky cough. What should I do? Well, I mean, in general, in a typical practice, you're just going to be on your own until the morning, or maybe there's a nurse triage line that you call, or you're going to go to the ER because urgent care is closed and all those sorts of things. But in pediatric direct care, what if I just run over a dose of Decadron to your home at 9 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock in the morning, or a Sunday afternoon? Those are all things that you can do in a relative easy sense, but the question here is, how do I set those boundaries for established patients when you've been overly accommodating thus far? You don't want to have to spend your whole career getting up at 2 in the morning to give a little bit of Decadron to that crooper across town, and you don't need to do that either. I think that's one of the things that keeps pediatricians often from actually going into direct care is feeling like they're going to be on call all the time, feel like their patients are going to be very demanding because you're paying for this. You should get carte blanche whenever you want, in whatever way you want. And patients realize as you form that relationship that you're a human being too, and you're not available at all times, nor should they at the price points that we're talking expect that. This isn't the $10,000 per month helicopter fly to your home in the Hamptons to, give your kid a dose of ibuprofen or something like that. This is not pediatric direct primary care. What you need to do when you want to reset your boundaries is first internally decide what those boundaries are. You might have had a lot of experiences where you feel like this was outside of my boundaries, or I did something and yeah, I could do it for this one patient this one time, but if this becomes a systemic habit, it's going to really wear on me and it's going to be difficult for me. There are times where you're going to intentionally say, I'm going to adjust my boundaries here. Here's my boundaries. I'm going to let somebody just hop right outside of them for just a moment. Now, an example of that, a parent texted a picture of their kid's scalp. It was 7:30. We were playing outside of my house. I saw the picture. I knew this family just had a new baby like 2 weeks ago. And they would have to go to urgent care or the ER just to get a couple of staples. And they live in the same zip code as me. And so what I said, I was like, okay, I'm going to move outside the boundaries because this will be a huge win for this family and it's really not an inconvenience for me, is I have staples at my house. Hey, come on over. We'll pop in a couple staples and then you can be on your way so that you can get back to, feeding your newborn baby. That was an example where, one, it wasn't a huge issue. Number two, it was easy for me to solve without having to leave my home, without having a big distraction from family time or anything along those lines. They pulled up in the van while we were still playing outside. The kid didn't even get out of the car. I just went over, wiped the area off, staple. Have a nice day. My kids enjoyed getting to see me in action. Now, that was something where I then said to them, don't tell your friends that I did this. And that is a way to, one, make sure that they don't tell their friends that they did it, because I don't want everyone being like, oh, anytime you need staples, just text Dr. B and you can just swing by his house. And two, is a way to set that boundary of, hey, this is way outside of what I typically do. And I'm just doing you guys a solid because I know you have a brand new baby and it wasn't really inconvenient to me. But this is not the typical experience that you should expect. Here's where the boundaries actually lie. I did let you sneak outside the boundaries, but in general, we're going to stay inside the boundaries. Now, I did not have to answer that text message. I could have just let that go and left them to figure that out for themselves, and they would have figured it out. They would have said, okay, this is really bleeding. We need to go to urgent care. totally reasonable approach at that hour to go to urgent care to get those staples in. But we went above and beyond. But what you need to do first is decide internally what those boundaries are. What are going to be my regular boundaries? Am I going to respond after hours? Am I going to see patients after hours? Am I going to wake up at 2 in the morning for a typical phone call or something along those lines? Those are things that you get to decide. I always think it's best when you're doing anything new is to make sure all of the new patients that see you have that experience and have those boundaries set from the start. So decide internally, warm up your new patients, and then with our existing patients that we're saying, okay, we need to reset the boundaries. We've let a lot of things go when it comes to interrupting my family time, when it comes to getting special passes for the typical workaround. Here's our new system to make sure that you get the appointments that you need in the time that you need them to get the care that you need. Here's how it's going specifically to work. One of the easiest ways to do this is to have self-scheduling so that instead of patients waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you feeling like, I should probably do something for them because they waited a while, I'm just going to take care of this. They know that they can always book an appointment without having to wait, without having to text and wait for you, without having to call or anything along those lines. They can always book that appointment when they need it. And then what it becomes really easy to do is say when somebody texts in with a question or a concern or my kid has this, that, or the other thing going on, and you really feel like this deserves some time and not just a quick text message of like their ibuprofen dose or something like that, say, hey, to give this the full evaluation that I think is warranted, why don't you make an appointment and we can chat quick about this? It could be a virtual appointment. It could be an in-person appointment, something along those lines. But it then sets the expectation of this is worth enough of your time, parent, that I want to really make sure that I understand what's going on here. So here's a link to book that appointment. Now, it's not a bunch of phone tag back and forth with you with like, does Tuesday work? Does Thursday work? That online self-scheduling makes a huge difference for setting boundaries because it allows you to, they send you the ball and you just plop it right back over the net to them so that now they've got the ball and they can decide what to do from that. Maybe it wasn't a big enough issue to warrant an appointment. Maybe they booked an appointment and then it self-resolved itself, but you've hit it right back to their side of the net. The other thing that I think really helps when setting boundaries is to communicate them at every opportunity, which means every single time somebody texts you after hours, they should get an automatic response that reminds them of how it works after hours. When patients text us and we're closed, so we close at like 4:30 on weekdays, and then what happens over the evening is anytime someone texts, they get a message. Hey, we're not open right now, but we can still help. If this is something that can wait, leave it here and we'll get back to it in the morning. If you need to book an appointment, here's the link to book an appointment. And if this is something that can't wait, like you are deciding whether or not you need to go to the emergency department, obviously if it is emergency, call 911, but here's the phone number to call if this really can't wait until we're open. That sets the expectation of I don't have to respond because I already have responded. And instead of them waiting for a response and wondering if they'll get back, because usually they get back to us even though it's after hours and I know they're closed, instead they already know not to expect a reply, and here's what to do instead. Okay, perfect. I asked a question about potty training. This is not an emergency. I don't really need to make an appointment. I know when they're open, they'll get back to me because this is not an emergency. Versus, hey, I wonder if my kid has an ear infection. Okay, I'll just book an appointment. Click, book the appointment for tomorrow morning. It's off of your radar. It's off of their radar. Everybody is happy. Versus, my newborn has a fever and I'm really not sure what to do. Okay, I'm going to call this number so that I can talk through it and figure out what to do from there. Now that number might go straight to you. That number might go to a nurse triage line if you decide, okay, I really want my boundaries to be respected, so I'm going to add a layer after hours where there's a nurse triage line that can get the information and then contact me if they need to. That's another option for you as you go and as you grow your practice so that you can say, I'm the best for my patients when I am rested and recharged and not constantly bombarded with text messages or phone calls for non-urgent things. And so I'm going to put that in place. So hopefully that helps. Like, here's how to set the boundaries. 1 is decide on them. 2 is communicate them on a regular basis. 3, make it really easy for your boundaries to be respected by making it easy to keep that ball on their side of the net. All right. Hope that helps.